Hello my loves, I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for being on this channel where we are talking about the multi-dimensional approach to rapidly and radically healing and transforming during and after narcissistic abuse. And this video is all about how the narcissist feels entitled to your time, energy, money, love, whatever they want from you. Guys, please keep liking, subscribing and sharing if you like this content. It really does support my channel. I mean a lot to me. So let's talk about this, right? The reason it's so difficult for us to put boundaries in with narcissists is they don't see us and they don't want us, right, to be our own person. They want to mold you into what they need you to be. The love bombing stage is a trap. It's a way in which they manage to mirror your unmet needs and your ultimate soul connection that you want from them. Yeah, so they can like hold an illusion of who you thought they were, right? It's kind of like a dodgy deal. You've thought you've got involved with one person, but actually there's someone completely different, right? And then the rest of the relationship is about devaluing, discarding, hoovering, devaluing, discarding, hoovering you back so they can keep siphoning your energy and keep you in the trauma bond. They feel entitled. They see you as a source to energy. They can harvest your energy. They see you as a source of getting their needs met, right? And on one level, so do we, if you think about it. And that's why it's an energetic match as well, because they've basically made an illusion of what you need out of someone in the love bombing stage. And then of course, they're never going to provide it. What they're going to do is erode you, yeah? And keep implanting the two subconscious programs in your brain that you don't matter, yeah? You don't matter, you're not enough, and that you don't exist in your own right, in your own authenticity. You exist actually to be what they need you to be, which is generally in trauma and pain, so they can, because pain has a very strong energetic charge, although it's a low vibration, like fear, pain, suffering, despair, has a very strong energetic charge when we feel it, and that's what they're harvesting. They harvest our energy, literally. So it's very difficult to put in boundaries because they're going to disregard them most of the time. The most effective way to put in boundaries is to not engage. Use the diffusing techniques I teach you. So there's one video about how to shut a narcissist down. I'm going to make a PDF for you guys, right? So if you subscribe to my website at elliefrost.com, if you subscribe to that, at some point during this month, I'm going to make a PDF to get people through the holidays on phrases you can use that just diffuse the energy and actually shut the narcissist down. And even if it's not a narcissist, just get you out of conversations where you don't want to be. Sometimes, especially around this time of year, we can get hijacked by people in conversations and we feel very drained because they're draining our energy. Yeah, it's not just narcissists that drain our energy. And so diffusing statements enable you to shut a conversation down and actually change the subject, but without causing any conflict and without, like upsetting someone. So what the idea of diffusing statements is to diffuse the energy so that we don't end up traumatized in an argument, in an aggressive situation, in conflict. Basically diffusing conflict is what they're all about, and actually shutting a conversation down, so there's no energy for that anymore. That's what the diffusing statement is. So this feeling of entitlement is because you're kind of an extension of them. You're an object. They are dehumanized because they're soul detached, operating with an entity of consciousness we're calling narcissism, which is why they all act in the same ways, in the same sequence. And they objectify you. They dehumanize you because our empathy, our hearts, our feelings, our needs, wants and desires, our emotions are a huge part of who we are, right? But to them, you're a battery source of energy and you're an object that they can use for their own needs, right? So you get dehumanized. When we lose our emotional body, that's what makes us human. Our empathy, our consciousness, our emotional reaction to things. It makes up who we are. So you get just to be, people call it like, I feel like I'm in a trance, or, you get to be a reaction to them, basically. What I teach people to do is to not be a reaction to the narcissist, to manage to diffuse the energy, to take themselves back, right? And to stand by their needs, wants, and desires. Authenticity to me isn't just being true to who you are, it's being true to what you want and need. And so many of us, when we've been around entitled narcissists who are entitled, who feel entitled to, and absolutely, by the way, without remorse, what you'll notice with narcissists is all the narcissistic rage, the tantrums, the passive aggressive behaviors of ignoring you, emotionally neglecting you, generally come if you try and resist them getting what they need out of you. Their way or the highway. You know what I mean? It's their way or the highway. And many of us go into chronic people pleasing and the fawn response, the trauma response of fawn, which is to pacify them. Right, we just want to get the love bombing stage back. We just want the person we thought they were to come back. So many of us just give up our power, give up our resources, thinking that this will actually solve the problem. So many times with narcissists, we often think, well, I'll just give them what they want this time. It'll be easier than resisting. But what we don't take into account is how much that can deplete our energy and affect us long term. We end up with no energy, we end up disconnected from self, we end up not fulfilling our dreams and desires, we end up just repeating those behaviors with other people and not getting our needs met. And we end up in this kind of despondent state. It's a bit of like apathy, like we just, we end up sort of numbed out of life. So the narcissist, taking away the self-sourcing, part of what I teach in my sovereign program, is about being a source to self of love, approval, validation, support, and being true and honoring what we want and need at any time, being our own parent. Self-partnering is like self-parenting in what I teach. And that means that I don't allow my needs, desires, and wants to be ignored. In fact, I've got my own back, and I'm not looking for a narcissist especially to fulfill those needs, but in healthier relationships, I am present. I am going to be present with me. I'm going to be fully there, and that is also going to be true to what I need and want out of the relationship. There's a lot of work I do in Sovereign on our values and on boundaries, right? And actually the very deep dive in one of the modules, I think it's module 5, on going into detail of what that looks like. Because most of us say, well, I know I value love and trust and stuff, but then I take you into, well, what does that look like in your friendships? What does that look like in your work situation? What does that actually look like with your kids? Let's go into detail and see where you're not actually in integrity with that, so that you can be, and where you are. Because most of us have never even been taught the emotional intelligence to do that, to actually say, right, well, if I value, I don't know, reciprocal relationships, then what does that actually mean? Well, it means that if I'm doing, picking up someone's kids after work and doing them a lot of favors, I expect when I ask them to help me out that they would do the same thing. And if they don't, I'm willing to have a powerful conversation to say, look, I love the relationship, if it's a healthy person, I like our connection, but I really would appreciate it if you could help me out sometimes too, right? What most of us do is don't speak, especially after these cycles. I've got a whole module 2 on this, and then we end up resenting people, right? So communication tools, which I'm going to do more of, is really helpful, because it helps us start forming healthier relationships outside the narcissistic abuse, right? And it helps us get in touch, right? I help you get in touch with who you really are and what you want and need, which the narcissist will try and erode, yeah? Setting boundaries with narcissists is difficult because they will disregard them. So we've got to be clear on the consequence. Because if there's no consequence to a boundary, so a boundary is a deal breaker. I teach people this all the time. Standards are things that I'm working with people on, we work with other people on to sort of set a standard, a higher standard for our life. But a boundary is a deal breaker, you see. And so we've got to get used to, very early on in relationships, actually setting our boundaries in beautiful. You can say it in a lovely way. You can say these things really clearly, like what's important to you and that kind of stuff. But if you have to speak a boundary, right, the behavior's already gone too far. I mean, monogamy is a really easy one to give an example of. So if my standard is loyalty in relationships, right? If my standard is monogamy, then if someone sleeps with someone else, they've crossed my boundary. And actually, if it's a true boundary, that's a deal breaker, right? But a standard but my standards might be a bit different. Like, I don't want you having, I don't know, opposite sex friends that you go on holiday with, or, I want to know and be comfortable with people of the opposite sex that you talk to and understand the relationship and feel safe in it. That the standards are a little bit more vague, and that you get to work through in relationships as you find out where you are. And there's no problem saying that I'm still working through my abandonment issues with someone, and to say, like, I know I'm a little bit paranoid, but actually for me to be in this relationship with you, I need a little bit more reassurance, for example. You don't have to be perfect to start a loving relationship. You just need to be with a healthy person that's willing to communicate with you and work with you on what you need right now as you work on improving trust, as you work on letting go of codependency, right? There's plenty of people on the planet in codependent relationships that are not with narcissists, right? And that are working through things. That's part of forming healthy relationships. So I'm going to do a lot more on communication stuff. Subscribe to my website, www.elliefrost.com, because I will be sending out some communication, like, you know, like a PDF or something, so you've got it all in front of you. You haven't got to watch all the videos back. Just statements you can use to help you through this season. Lots of love, guys. I'll speak to you soon.